What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Green Dot Daily, Action Network's daily sports betting show. It is Tuesday, December 6th. Be sure to join us every weekday at noon Eastern, streaming live in the Action Network app. We are also live on Action Network HQ, Twitter, and YouTube. So join us, whatever pleases you the most. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. So on the show today, we will dive into NFL Week 14. Yeah, we don't do the whole recap. Like, we're getting right back into it. Week 14, some good divisional matchups, fantasy implications with Samantha Praviti, because let's face it, you're probably like at 500 and you need to win this week to make your playoffs. We're all there. So Samantha's going to come on, give us some help. Simon and Chad from the Favorites podcast, they'll join us, their favorite picks going into the week. Buckets podcast checks in, NBA plays for tonight, college hoops with three-man weave. They've got a few plays. And then Tim Kalinowski is going to explore the transfer portal as well as other college football happenings later on in the program. But we start with the FIFA World Cup. Underway as we speak, Morocco and Spain, they're well underway. This one's wrapping up. We've got Michael Leboff and Anthony Dabbundo from the Wonder Goal podcast, two of our very best that cover soccer at Action Network. They're also going to help us preview Portugal and Switzerland. Leboff, why don't you start us off? What do you have for us?
Yeah, I like Switzerland. They're 2-1 to advance, and I think that this number's pretty astounding. I thought this was going to be a little lower. The Swiss looked really good in their win over Serbia, which was basically an eliminator. So they've already played a knockout game, if you want to look at it that way, in this World Cup. Meanwhile, Portugal, they won their group, but they kind of coasted through. They lost, even not looking at the loss to South Korea, because they played a change squad and it didn't really mean all that much to them. They flattered to deceive, I think, so far in this tournament. They look ripe for the taking, and the Swiss team, what do we know about them? They can sit back and they can defend basically better than anybody in this field. They know they're well drilled. They know exactly what the game plan is from the second they step onto the field, the second they step off. They should cause this Portugal offense, which, they've got a lot of talent, but not a ton of cohesion. They should cause them some issues. They should hang around. Don't forget, the Swiss team, they kept Brazil in their pocket until the 83rd minute in their matchup. So I trust the defense. They showed some offensive flair against Serbia. They can score. They have a striker in Briel Embolo, and they have like a playmaker in Xherdan Shaqiri who can make moments of magic, which is what you're going to need. So at 2-1 to advance, I think you're getting a really good number on a Swiss team that should punch up pretty well here.
Round of 16 wraps up, Dabbundo, with Switzerland and Portugal. What's your angle, your favorite angle to bet this match?
Yeah, I'm going to bet Switzerland plus a half at -110. I agree with Michael that the Swiss are absolutely live to pull off an upset that we have not had in the round of 16. The favorite has advanced in all 6 matches. There was a couple of underdog covers with Japan and Australia, but the favorite has advanced in every match, Spain and Morocco in extra time as we speak. And I think I agree with Michael that Switzerland has punched up well in the past. I mean, they just took out France at the Euros last summer. They took Spain all the way to penalties. And this summer, Portugal and Switzerland played twice. They split those 2 meetings, with the Swiss winning their home match 1-0. And that was the most realistic lineup that you're going to see today. Pretty much both teams played their best 11s in that Nations League match. And Switzerland were able to control about 45% of the possession, but didn't really let Portugal get a ton of penalty area pressure on them for the majority of the match. And Portugal's attack has looked a bit disjointed. You mentioned it, Michael. They got a penalty against Uruguay. They had a cross that went in that was kind of an accidental goal in a way against Uruguay as well. And they've conceded at least one expected goal in every match in this World Cup. And they played a pretty weak group with Ghana and South Korea and Uruguay. So I think there's question marks about Portugal. I agree. Crossing will be a big element for the Swiss here, going up against a pretty weak fullback group defensively for the Portuguese. So I like the Swiss, maybe 1-1 getting into extra time, having a real chance to advance here.
Quarterfinals begin on Friday. So you two, I know Leboff is big into hockey in the NHL, so I guess he'll have something to do. Dabbundo, what are you going to do for 2 days before the quarterfinals start?
I've got some good college hoops. That's we're entering that time of the year now for me where it's college hoops time.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I was hoping you'd say something along the lines of I'm going to drive myself insane with no World Cup. You've already graduated from the 5 a.m. wake up calls and now with nothing going to Cup for 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday. But there are lines and matchups, of course, ready for Friday. Croatia, Brazil, Netherlands, Argentina, England, France. One of those, Croatia, Brazil, is on Friday. We'll start with Leboff. Any leans, anything you're looking at now before any potential line movement for the quarters?
Yeah, I like the Netherlands. You're getting a good number on them on the three-way money line already against Argentina. I think that the market's going to be on Argentina here because it's, Messi destiny, right? Like nobody wants this thrill ride to end. They don't want to see this guy walk off the field with head in his hands, crying because that's it for him in an Argentina shirt. But when you look at these two teams, like, is there that much of a difference? I don't think so. I think you can look at that talent-wise. You can look at that form-wise with the way they played in this tournament. The Netherlands were not impressive in the group stage. Neither was Argentina as a whole. Then both teams, did what they had to do in the round of 16, with the Netherlands looking like they had a game plan against the USA. They executed it brilliantly. Meanwhile, Argentina, they had to work pretty hard to beat Australia, which was, you talk about the two matchups. Like the Netherlands beat a much stronger opponent than Argentina did. So the Argentines haven't really been tested yet in this tournament. They haven't played a really strong opponent yet. I don't think we can say Team USA is that, but they've definitely, of the two teams that we're talking about here, the Netherlands has definitely played a tougher schedule. Ecuador, Senegal, the USA, much tougher than I think what Argentina's had to deal with. So I just don't think there's that much of a difference between these two teams. So without any home field advantage, I like the Netherlands to continue their run and pull the upset against Messi and Argentina.
Okay. Dabbundo, what jumps out to you for the upcoming week and the weekend?
Yeah, I agree with Michael on the Dutch. Dumfries and Memphis being healthy makes this team look a lot better, and that they showed that against the United States. But I'm going to go to the England-France matchup, the final quarterfinal. It'll be Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I mean, this is the biggest toss-up of the quarterfinals, it looks like on paper and in the betting markets, and I like both teams to score here. We know both managers are very conservative generally in their tactics, and that might lead you to say you want to bet the under. But I actually think both defenses have been a bit fortunate this World Cup to not concede more chances. When you look at how France played against Poland, they don't apply ball pressure. They let the opponent have the ball. They don't stop crosses. I think England will be able to get on the board here. But as well, at the other end, the French attack has looked dynamite in this tournament with Mbappe, of course. But most importantly, I think it's been Giroud's movement as the striker and Griezmann having the tournament of his life as a creator and attacker that has really, added on to, of course, Mbappe being great. So I think the French and the English will both score in this match, but minus 120 right now. And I think there are going to be more goals than maybe you'd expect in that match, given that both defenses have been a little bit leaky. We saw Senegal and Poland give a lot of problems to both teams.
Okay, that one's tight. I mean, the draw no bet line, England plus 110, France minus 155, and that one is taking place later this week in the quarterfinal round. Gentlemen, I gave you a hard time. You guys deserve this time off. 2 days to decompress and watch other sports, not called soccer. Thanks for stopping by. Wonder Goal is live again. Is it Friday?
Wednesday night. So we will not have that much time off. We'll be prepping for the quarters.
It's today, Tuesday. Okay, so tomorrow night.
Yep.
Very good. But then you got Thursday. So enjoy it while you can. Thank you, Michael Leboff, Anthony Dabbundo of Wonder Goal. Turning our attention to week 14 in the NFL, here are some spreads and totals we have our eyes on. Chiefs Broncos, that was supposed to be a good game when we saw the schedule come out way back when, but it's kind of a smelly one. Eagles, Giants, Vikings, Lions, also Dolphins, Chargers. That is in the 4:00 window. We welcome in, as we do every Tuesday on Green Dot Daily, the duo from the Favorites podcast, Chad Millman and Simon Hunter, to get their picks in week 14. Gents, a couple of those matchups are pretty key divisional matchups. There's some other really good ones going on. Bengals, Browns, you've got the Jets and the Bills, the two favorites looking for revenge from losses earlier in the year. Chad, we'll start with you. What's a pick that you're eyeing in week 14 here on a Tuesday?
All right. A, Brendan, I'm coming to you live on tape from our nearly finished studio. B, the team I'm looking at is so disgusting. I don't even want you to look at the team, which is the Broncos. Blindly bet the Broncos as huge home dogs against the Kansas City Chiefs. Some stats to think about. Home dogs of 7 or more in December or later, the past 20 years, cover at a 56% clip. Take the next step. Teams that have a 65% or more winning percentage going against teams that have a 25% or worse winning percentage that are huge favorites. Those teams lose against the spread 64% of the time the past 4 years. And then finally, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes, right? Everybody loves to bet Patrick Mahomes as a favorite. But when we get into December and he is a huge favorite, as he is, 17, 18, and 2 against the spread. Let's ride.
Very good. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, when that spread is 3 or shorter, we know he's very good. He did come off a loss in that spot to the Bengals, 17-6-1, but has a record under 500 when the spread is greater than 3.5. Simon, how about you? Week 14, what's a pick that you have right now?
Yeah, another home dog. The Chargers this week is probably one of the more undervalued teams. So just looking at the basic numbers, if you can get a +3, I'd grab in the simple fact I think it is going to move. I do think it'll come down to 2.5, most likely. I do think the professionals will bet it. Off of what Miami is a good team, but I think the public kind of got a realization last week that they're good against bad teams. I don't know if Chargers necessarily are a very bad team. Sure, they have some holes on defense against the run. But outside of that, they do have good players on that team and across the board. The big key to this game is, what's the offensive line going to look like for Miami? We saw what happened last week without 2 key starters on that offensive line. Just he didn't have time. We saw when Tua had time, he's all right. When he doesn't have time, he can't be accurate. What's he good for? Nothing. He can't really do anything. He's not really a mobile quarterback. He kind of stands back there and looks for his target. So in a matchup where I know Khalil Mack will be going up against a backup tackle, I mean, give me the Chargers in that matchup every time, especially in the simple fact of this Miami defense has struggled against good offenses. We know the Chargers have a good offense. They're just inconsistent. But as a dog, as a 3-point dog, I would just grab that number early just in case it does go down to 2.5, because there could be some movement on this number as the week goes along here.
Just don't take the Chargers in the second half. Herbert can't cover a second half spread to save his life.
Yeah.
3-9 this year, the Chargers in the second half against the number. So, but you like them full game. Very good. All right, let's move on. As I mentioned, divisional matchups, Jets, Bills, Browns, Bengals, Eagles, Giants is another good one. If the Giants want a marquee win this year, can they hang with Philadelphia? Give them a game. Revenge spots possibly as well. Like I said, Cleveland knocked off the Bengals Monday night in their home building, and the Jets scored a win against the Bills. So are we buying the favorites podcast or the dogs? We'll start with Simon. What's the dog that you like? Possibly.
Yeah, another home dog in the Giants at +7 right now. It's a simple play of the Eagles are just going to be overvalued. I knew they were going to be overvalued after last week's big blowout. Did I think they're going to buy 25? No, but they did. And that's a big deal in the eyes of the public, where they were kind of down on the Eagles last week. They thought they're a little overrated. Now they're coming in way heavier on the other side. They're like, okay, I underrated them. It's like just a balancing act. That's what I have to try to do here as a professional, where it's like, take the value where it's going to come. This line should probably be 4.5. It's 7 on the simple fact the Eagles blew out and the Giants tied in an ugly game. Why would the public come in on the Giants? That's not the fun team. That's not the team they're going to tease this week. They're all going to be teasing the Eagles. So to me, it's another key number. It's at 7 right now. It's going to go to 6.5. I know it's going to drop. The pros are going to be all over this number. In a divisional matchup, an outdoors game, these games are always sloppy. They're always close. And we know the Giants have played well against the Eagles historically these last couple of years. So when I look at a matchup like this, it's just which team is kind of getting too much love right now. It's definitely going to be this Eagles team. And last week as well, I think the favorites were 13-1 straight up. There's going to be a bounce back this week with a lot of dogs I think are going to win outright. It's just the laws of average. And this is one of these matchups I do think the Eagles could get upset. We've seen them lose already to a divisional team. Every time they play division, the games are usually close. Even against Cooper Rush and that Cowboys team, that was a close game at home. So I expect the Giants to keep this one close against an Eagles team that's just inflated right now after what they did last week.
Okay, Chad, you're going to a team that you've been quite supportive of on this show and on your podcast. Give it to us.
Yes, I am going back to the well with the Detroit Lions. A surprising this late in the year, considering where they started, 1.5-point favorite against the division leading Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings continue to be one of those teams that is just getting lucky. We saw it again this past week against the Jets, another 1-score win for the Vikings. The Jets punted 1 time and they scored 1 touchdown. They gained nearly 500 yards against the Vikings in Minnesota. Now Minnesota goes on the road. They're playing a Lions team that has been lights out offensively at home. Jared Goff is playing some of the best football of his career, completing north of 70% of his passes. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is the reason when he came back to this team in the middle of the season, they turned into an offensive juggernaut, top 10 in the league, according to advanced metrics. Also, their defense after the bye week in week 6 got significantly better, top half of the league in advanced metrics. And by the way, that's a big deal because in the first 6 weeks of the year, they were freaking terrible, like historically bad. So I'm looking at a Lions team that, according to those metrics, fares well with the Cincinnati Bengals. And people love the Bengals right now. So I'm getting a short home favorite with a team that I think matches up really well against a team in the Vikings that has gotten really lucky. Divisional matchup. Give me the short home favorite. Give me the Lions.
Folks, this is a historic matchup in terms of the spread. You have to go back to the 5-7 Lions when they were favored. So of course we're talking 5-7 Lions favored this week against the 10-2 Vikings. The last time a team with a starting quarterback and an 80% or higher win percentage was a dog against a team who was under 500, the 9-2 Falcons in 2004 when Michael Vick was on the cover of Madden, and they were 1.5 point underdogs in Tampa. The 4-7 Bucks, and Tampa won the game 27-0. So there you go. That bodes well, Chad Millman, on that pick. Favorites podcast goes live today on the AMP app starting at 1:40. That is the live video stream, and then podcast comes out every Wednesday and Friday. Gents, thanks a lot for stopping by. Crucial time of year for fantasy owners because we know your team is probably 7-6, 6-7, and you need someone in your division or your conference or your league to stink this week. But you need to keep in mind who you might need to add on the waiver wire to make that final stretch run. We welcome in Samantha Praviti, who covers fantasy football for Action Network, joins us all the time here on Green Dot Daily. All right, Samantha, give us the goods. Who do people need to go get to make this final push? Say they had Lamar Jackson and he got hurt.
Definitely. There has been absolute carnage on the injury front, and we have Binado 2.0 with 6 teams out in what could be a very consequential week for your fantasy playoffs. So with that said, my number one waiver wire ad this week is going to be Tyler Huntley, who is out there in just about every league. He stepped in for an injured Lamar Jackson, was the QB 15 for fantasy. This is pretty impressive given that he only played 3 quarters of football against a top-notch Denver D. Jackson's knee injury isn't believed to be season ending, but it does sound like he's at least doubtful for week 14. So with 6 teams on bye, Huntley enters the streaming conversation next week against the Steelers, who have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. And then after that, he'd square off against Cleveland and Atlanta if Jackson misses any more time.
How about in the running game? Because running backs this time of year, if a guy goes down, you need some depth maybe for a flex spot. Who's a running back that jumps out to you that might be available?
Yeah, sure. So a running back that I really like is James Cook, who is out there in over 75% of leagues. He's coming off of his best game of his very short career, recorded 20 touches for 105 scrimmage yards. He outtouched Devin Singletary, and the two were almost dead even in snaps, which was a pretty significant departure from previous weeks. Cook was the RB15 in half PPR this week and appears to be on the rise for fantasy. So I believe this could be turning into a 1A, 1B type situation. And Cook's usage in the passing game, unlike Singletary's, could give him standalone value. So he should be an RB3 flex this week against the Jets. And things get even better versus the Dolphins and Bears after that.
I know no one cares about my fantasy team, but I will go there.
And I care.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to make a line about my fantasy team. My tight end is Tyler Higbee, and he has been phased out, it feels like, of this offense. They're just playing all these kids now, the JV Rams. I've got Hunter Henry on my bench. I need a tight end, all right? And I'm in it. I'm in the mix here. I've got positions elsewhere fine. Who can help me at tight end?
I think that if you need a tight end and are looking for a potential lottery ticket, check out Cade Otton, who is out in the vast majority of Yahoo leagues. He is coming off of a huge game on Monday night in which he caught 6 of 10 for 28 yards and a touchdown, which was apparently good enough to finish as the tight end 1 in full PPR this week. So that's how bad the tight end position was this week. Otton played a larger role with Cameron Brate out, but I am very encouraged to see the sheer number of targets he's getting from TB12. The rookie's been a bit erratic this year, though. I think that's just the tight end position all season. And sometimes it feels like a bit of Russian roulette if you did not draft Travis Kelce.
Yep, for sure. And he's no Gronk, but there's 2 plays last night that jumped out to me. Brady threw one to him, I think, on 3rd down, and Otton had it in his hands and dropped it. And Brady lost his mind one of a few times last night. But then Otton ran that route that Gronk runs all the time to score the first touchdown for the Bucks to start that comeback. So Cade Otton is sort of trusted by 12. He really has no choice but to trust him at this point. Okay, let's go to the fantasy hot seat. And this typically is a player that I think folks feel good about at some point in the year. And then you're like, wait a minute, we got to take a hard look at this guy. And who might that be at this point in the year?
Yeah, so this week it is Travis Etienne in my fantasy hot seat. He's now had 3 games in a row with lackluster production, one of which came 2 weeks ago when he was banged up in the game. I'm not sure if he's still hurt, but last week against the Lions, he was unable to capitalize on this sweet matchup, finished as the RB39 in half PPR in spite of participating in 88% of snaps. Unfortunately, I think it could be another tough day with the Titans on deck in week 14, whose defense ranks number 1 in rush DVOA and has allowed the 7th fewest fantasy points to running backs this year. Then after that, he faces the Cowboys and Jets. Yuck. So he may not be as locked in of a starter as we had hoped earlier this season.
You've got the Mike White season to sign up. I mean, speaking of waiver ads, if White's available, are you in on Mike White still?
I'm a little concerned about the matchup this week. It's the only reason that I wouldn't put him higher on the priority. And I think like Huntley might be a better option just because of his rushing abilities and just the way that he kind of plays with that Ravens offense. But Mike White is definitely an option if you are in a pinch or in sort of like a 2 QB super flex type situation.
Okay, well, we appreciate the urgency you are giving us, and I think folks feel a little more comfortable now with their fantasy regular seasons coming to a close and the playoff push begins. Samantha Kavidi, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the NBA. LeBron back in Cleveland. Cleveland, this is for you. Remember that? Yeah, unders getting 56% of the money. Lakers are on a little bit of a roll, too. They've won 8 of 10. Has the torch been passed from LeBron to AD? And the Mavericks and Nuggets also meet this evening. Money coming in on the under and also on Denver to cover. Mavs have struggled this year on the road. What does the Buckets podcast think?
Lakers are traveling back to Cleveland. LeBron returning back home. I looked into his props bet. I think this is going to be a really close game throughout. I kind of lean the Lakers here, but I like LeBron over 13.5 assists plus rebounds. He's been hitting that very well on this road trip, and I think it continues. My second best bet is going to be the late night cap here. I think we're going to get an over game. I think it's going to be a lot of offense. Mavs are playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Over 223 Mavs Nuggets.
My best bet for Tuesday's slate is going to be the Dallas Mavericks. I'm taking them +5. This opened 4.5, so it seems to be moving in the Nuggets direction. I've got no indication that Luka's going to sit on the back-to-back. Obviously, look, I'm going to go ahead and play this. The best thing for you to do as a listener is probably to wait and make sure that the Mavericks are playing everybody, because they travel overnight. They have to file the injury report in the morning. So they may list Luka in the morning as questionable, but they may also just be like, yeah, everybody's fine. And then before the game, be like, yeah, we're giving Luka the night off. Like, there is nothing stopping the Dallas Mavericks from doing that, which, by the way, is a big fucking problem for the NBA that they probably need to sort out, considering, you know, they do want the money that the revenue from gambling produces. I'm a little concerned about where Denver's at now. The counter to this is usually the spot where everyone's like, oh boy, I don't know, the Nuggets may be tipping, and then they go in and then they smash a good team and they look awesome. I just think that the number is, I've got this number under where it's at right now. I think it's much closer to a pick'em, and that gives value on the Mavericks. But I will just say, like, a lot of reasons why I'm a little nervous about which way. I'll say this. I think either way, this is a blowout. I think this is either Dallas by 10 plus or this is Denver by 10 plus. I don't know that's going to be in the middle.
Solid college basketball slate tonight on this Tuesday. Illinois, Texas. Texas laying just under a 3-point basket in this one. Maryland, Wisconsin, a conference matchup. One of very few conference matchups on the slate tonight, and it's got a ranked opponent in Maryland taking place. And then Iowa and Duke. It's a nice, interesting matchup. Big Ten against the ACC. That should be good. Duke, a short favorite at home. We welcome in one of our pals from the three-man weave. He's covering college basketball with us at Action Network this winter as well. Kai McKeon, thanks for stopping by. Let's discuss Texas and Illinois first. I feel like Texas has been in so many big spots in these weeknight games, national TV. Folks are buying in on the Longhorns. They've had some impressive performances this year. Does Illinois have a shot?
Illinois has a shot for sure. I've been impressed with the Illini, but Texas is great. They're way more experienced than the Illini. They play 6 seniors in the rotation, and Tyrese Hunter, their sophomore guard, very battle-tested coming over from Iowa State. Illinois, just 2 seniors in the rotation, heavy reliant on freshmen. Also not very secure with the ball this year, 260th in turnover rate. That's concerning against a Texas defense that turns teams over at a top 10 rate. This Texas defense is insane this season. They're good in just about every area except for the defensive glass. Slight weakness there. Danger and Hawkins for Illinois will look to exploit that. I was kind of hoping the line would go the other way, but the folks out there are betting the Illini. It's come down a little bit too far for my liking. I'm kind of leaning Texas at this price.
Okay, very good. Yeah, they're averaging 39 rebounds a game. Illinois is at 40. And like you said, the money now, more of the money's coming in on Illinois, and then the percentage of the bets is in on Texas. So we'll see how that shakes out. That is later today. Texas, number 2 team in the country. Maryland, Wisconsin, as I said, this is a conference head-to-head battle. So no surprise here. It's a short number, but the home team's favored in Wisco against a ranked Maryland team.
Yeah, similar experience theme here. Terps, 4 seniors in their starting lineup. Very cohesive unit. They're also playing their best basketball right now. I think this is what you have in terms of a peak team currently. Old team, very working very well together right now. The Badgers, only 1 senior on their roster right now, and Tyler Wall. Big Ten home, though, that is for real. That home court advantage is for real in this conference. We just saw Rutgers take down Indiana. The Kohl Center is always a tough place to play for these Big Ten opponents. Wisconsin's also very well coached. They execute just as well as any team in the country on offense. I'm just not really interested in fading Maryland right now. They're 7-1 against the spread with an 8-point cover margin. No thanks. It is their first year road game. No offense to Louisville, but I am hesitant to fade the Badgers at home. I'm hesitant to fade the Terps with their current ATS record.
Wow. So you're going to take the road dog in this spot in Maryland. And yeah, they're playing well. Money's coming in on the Terrapins. Yeah, that Louisville operation is really sad. It's like I'd love to be inside the brain of the bookmakers when they're like, all right, we're going to give them 14 points. Like, at some point, doesn't it up? It's going to keep going up, I think, but I think they keep thinking, all right, we're not going to get slammed here on Louisville, and folks going against them. It's working. Miami just killed them the other day. All right, let's go Iowa and Duke. Duke with a win over Boston College most recently. Duke's only laying 2.5 points. They're getting 61% of the bets. The money's coming in on Iowa, though.
Yeah, the right side, in my opinion. Again, I was hoping this line would go up, so to get Iowa at a better price. But I like the Hawkeyes here. I've seen Duke in person a few times. Just not impressed them quite yet. They're still very young. The jury is still out on John Shire as a coach. I'm sure he's a good coach, but is he good enough to reach this team's potential? And right now, they're not playing their best basketball. They're young. They're going to get better as the season goes on. Iowa, however, has been great. They also have the size to match up with Duke, and they have the best player on the floor in Chris Murray, Keegan's brother. So I do like Iowa here as a short dog. Again, wish it was over 3.
Easy slip. I mean,
yeah.
Keegan was just there last year, and Chris,
they look alike.
They look very similar. Yes. What are you, a Duke season ticket holder?
No, I was out in Portland, PK85. So I caught him a couple times. Yep.
Freaking Portland, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of that team, they can shoot it. All right, Kai McKeon. One more. The shot clock's on. Shot clock pick. You've got 30 seconds or less to give us your favorite pick for tonight, and you're going to go off the cuff here.
Let's do it. Sam Houston State, +10, tough dog. They won outright twice already against power teams, Utah and Oklahoma on the road. Not intimidated. Also top 10 defensive turnover rate. That could be a problem for Oklahoma State. Sam Houston State, Bearcats.
Okay, and that Utah team beat Arizona head to head.
Good team.
So, yeah, very good. All right, he's Kai McKeon of 3-Man Weave, helping us out at Action Network. And thanks for stopping by Green Dot Daily. Enjoy the games tonight.
We got a few positions already taken care of because I'm bringing my luggage with me. And it's Louis. Okay. It ain't gonna be no more of the mess that these wonderful fans, the student body, and some of your parents have put up with for probably 2 decades now. I'm coming. And when I get here, it's gonna be changed. So I want y'all to get ready to go ahead and jump in that portal and do whatever you're gonna get. Because the more you jump in, the more room you make.
All right, Dion Prime. He is fired up to be with the Buffaloes of Colorado. Nice speech to, well, not exactly the most comforting speech, Tim Kalinowski, for current players, but if they're in, they're in, I think. And if they want to get out, he is giving them a full invitation. I would like to say, before I go to you here, there's a little bit more behind that quote. Like, Dion did have some things prior to the clip that's viral and all over social media. He made it very clear, like, okay, look, I understand that I'm going to bring in some players, and he was more comforting than I think it came off. Like, it was not full vengeance by Deion Sanders, but what'd you make of this? And of course, it's taking over social media.
Wait, you mean the internet didn't give us a full display of what actually happened? I find that very hard to believe. I don't think I've ever seen that on the internet. But you're right. That is true. And I'll just say this. I watched that and I'm like, and Deion saying, I'm coming. I'm like, I'm wherever you need me to be, I'll be, coach. Like, I thought that was awesome. And I understand people having a problem with it. And I hate being you've never been in a locker room when the coach said it. You know what? It's not really about that. How often do we as people say, well, I was promised one thing and then they weren't totally straight up with me. And it had me, there was a misunderstanding. We 2022, we have more misunderstandings. We have more miscommunications. How many kids commit to schools, go there, they were promised X. I mean, everybody and their brother is in the transfer portal. You know why? Because they probably went to one school. We're promised, we're told, here's what's going to happen. Here's what you're going to get, this amount of playing time, this, that. And then the end of the season came and none of those things really happened. So Deion saying to these kids, look, I'm going to be straight up with you. Could he have said it in a different way? Sure. But that's Prime. That's Coach Prime. There's no doubt who's in charge there. And he did say, look, are you going to stay or you're going to go? But I'm going to be transparent and straight up with you guys. And that I honestly appreciate, and that we should be celebrating coaches that do that more than the ones who bring in 10 receivers for 2 positions.
So the transfer portal is on our minds this time of year. The bowl games are coming, but in the meantime, we're talking a lot about the portal. And a key name that's heading to the transfer portal is the Clemson quarterback. DJ not got us falling in love tonight in Clemson.
Yeah. Well, obviously really disappointing. The last couple of times I've been on the show, I've been talking about how I convinced myself that Clemson could have got into the playoff a couple of weeks ago. And to see, DJ get benched in that ACC championship game for Cade, it's a little bit bittersweet because you're saying, wow, look how good Cade is. It's the MVP, his coming out party. And then it's like, why couldn't we do this a couple of weeks ago? So you're sitting there saying it really left almost a sour taste in your mouth. You're saying, why did this take so long? Mm-mm. And look, I have nothing but good things to say about DJ, the person. They stuck microphones in his face immediately after the game where he's benched on national television, standing there watching his backup be the MVP. They're baiting him into say, this is terrible, what he's actually thinking. And he was all class, stand-up teammate, stand-up leader. And I think, that's a lesson as well of how to handle yourself in that situation. And I became more of a DJ fan watching him react that way. It was kind of inspiring to see.
Drake May is also going to the transfer portal. So we're talking, of course, Clemson, North Carolina meeting the ACC title game. 2 key players going to the portal. I want to ask you, because like I said, the portal's busy no matter what level, FCS, Division I, Division II, Division III football, whatever it may be.
Yep.
If you, Tim Kalinowski, and you're on our social media platforms all the time, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, just from what you've gathered, and you're kind of in the landscape of all these college football social media spheres. If you were a college athlete, you're at one of these schools playing football, what programs, give us three to five programs that you're like, I want to go there. And that doesn't necessarily mean, of course, they're the best. It's, of course, what program can make the pitch to which ones have sex appeal?
Yeah, no, seriously. I tried to make this list, pretty diverse and say, look, yeah, would I be the third string corner on Alabama or Georgia if I was guaranteed a national championship? Yeah, sign me up. But I tried to think of it in a different way. One, Colorado, Dion, just the opportunity to be there and saying, what the hell is going on? I want to see this with my own two eyes. The fact he's got a camera crew all around. I think it's a selling point to say, look, everyone's saying, it's all about Dion's Coach Prime this. Look, I'm saying to these kids, we got microphones everywhere. We got video cameras everywhere. All this is you got content for yourself. Build your own brand. You're going to be mic'd up every practice. You're going to have a camera on you. That can actually help you. That can be a good thing for you. That, market yourself in that way. Here's what we're going to provide. The next thing, I love Texas just because I would love for the rest of my life to just be able to do this all the time. I'm obsessed with having a hand signal. I'm all in for Texas. I'm all in to wear a cowboy hat.
You're like your co-host, Sturko, who is coming on here giving college basketball plays, and he's always doing this to wrap it up.
Yo, I'm so in. You give me a hand signal, I'm sold. I'm an easy sell. Give me lights in the end zone when you score a touchdown and the hand signals. And this would be a surprising one. I love Nebraska. That team's terrible. They've been terrible my entire life, and they still bang the place out 93,000 or something every single Saturday. You won't want to play there. You only show in town. I got a thing for Nebraska, and then I would say cap it off with the two Arizona schools. I would think of going there just because I love Arizona, and especially with the Pac-12, you have UCLA and USC leaving. I think that opens the door. If I'm a transfer, I'm saying I want something new. I'm going to go hang out in a somewhat vacation here. You probably did all your credits already. Maybe you're a grad transfer. I'm going to take the intro to golf class or whatever and go hang out and hit some balls around.
Okay, good choices. I like it. I saw Nebraska over the weekend. Massachusetts high school Super Bowls. There's a kid committed to go play quarterback there, Pop Watson. And but the question is the whole Matt Rule thing, right? That kind of opens.
I believe in Matt Rule college wise. I believe in Matt Rule college wise. He did a good job in college. He really did. The whole Baylor situation, could there have been a worse situation to jump into?
True.
And you don't think Nebraska didn't have anything that toxic, right? This went beyond just our football team stinks. So I have a lot of respect for what Matt Rule did there.
Where do you not want to go?
It's funny. We're just talking during the pre-show here. I have a few non-starters in my life, right? Things that you can, if this isn't there, I will not be convinced otherwise. One of them is I love to sleep in my own bed. I hate having to go sleep on a buddy's couch. Yeah, spend the night, whatever. I'm I'll Uber home 3 hours before I sleep on your couch. And I got a stiff neck for about 3 weeks. And one of my non-starters is I need the home stadium on campus. So that leaves out UCLA and Miami. I guess, it's just, they bus fans in, whatever. Technically, it's closer than you think. Some people are getting, no. I need it on campus. That's how you get the students there. Look, the Syracuse, the Dome, it's in your backyard when you're there as a student. There's no excuse to not go. They still don't go, but there's no excuse. So that for me.
That very much correlates, because if you are not willing to sleep on someone's couch and do the whole sleepover thing, it's you want the stadium in the backyard. You don't want to have to make a long trip. Then again, you are down to Uber home though, if that's the case. So you could meet halfway, I suppose, a bit.
I'm smart. It's safe. It's a safe thing to do. You Uber home, but I know myself too well. I'm down for the stadium on campus. That's what I need. I like to be in the dorm room. I'm a freshman. I'm saying that's the goal right there. Saturday night, lights are on at that right there. Not let's go hop in some bus. No.
I know myself too well. What a quote to close this Tuesday. Very deep stuff from Tim Kalinowski. You can find him on our Action Network social channels, TikTok, especially Instagram reels. You're also live later. Well, you're going to be live to tape, but you'll have Gambling and Rambling coming out later tonight.
Yep. That comes out on Tuesday evenings. Me and Charlie DeSturco, Hutton Jackson, great producer. He deals with us. Imagine having to, cut down me talking for way too long. So, God bless him.
Yeah, I deal with all of you on an individual basis, and putting all three of you together sounds like quite a treat. So
yeah, it's a lot of babysitting for them.
Tim, thanks a lot, pal. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's remind everybody that you can track all of our picks. Great. Always talking to Tim about just life, and it really, you come out of it and start maybe questioning yourself, but also you found solutions in your life. You can find all the picks from our show, Green Dot Daily, over in the Action Network app at Green Dot Daily. All the picks from each show logged right when we are done. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use the bonus code ACTION when signing up. You can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Terms and conditions apply. That's going to do it for this Tuesday show. We'll be back tomorrow at noon Eastern. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes, all of our guests today. Brendan Glasheen, get some green dots. Busy sports day, soccer, basketball. You've got football coming up this weekend. So a lot going on. So enjoy it. We'll talk to you all real soon. See you tomorrow.